Indiana. So based on my research, I have tried to keep this story as true as possible, but because it's a famous and very controversial story, there could be many variations out there, many retellings which could possibly alter the story. And so yeah, I have tried to keep it as true as possible to the actual event. Okay, so without further ado, let's get started. So in a quiet neighborhood on Carolina Street in Gary, Indiana, once sat a modest, unassuming rental home, which became the center of one of the most controversial and chilling supernatural cases in recent American history. So this is the story of LaToya Ammons. I hope I'm pronouncing her name correct. LaToya Ammons. Her mother, Rosa Campbell, and their children, whose reported experiences in 2011 and 2012 would spark state investigations, medical interventions, police reports, exorcisms, and worldwide headlines. Okay, we are going to explore the so-called demon house that involves claims of full-blown demonic possession, children walking backward up walls, shadowy apparitions, and a home that would later be purchased and demolished by paranormal investigator Zach Bagans. So, yeah. So let's get to the story. LaToya Ammons, a mother devoted to her children, moved into this simple house on Carolina Street in late 2011. She was joined by her own mother, Rosa Campbell, who helped care for LaToya's 3 children. So from the outset, it appeared to be a welcome change, a place to settle down, to celebrate family milestones, and basically to build a modest life. But yet, from the family's earliest days in the house, an uncanny air seemed to hang over the property. Okay, let's start with the unexplained event that began to happen. Okay, so first it was the footsteps and door creaks. So before long, Rosa began hearing the steady shuffle of footsteps in the basement when no one was downstairs, and doors would open and creak closed as though gently pushed by an invisible hand. Late at night, something in the basement would thump against the concrete floor, and at first the family chalked it up to an old house's natural noises, pipes and the foundations of the house. But eventually the sounds grew louder and more insistent, and which eventually drove them to keep the lights on late in the evenings. Okay. And secondly, the swarming flies in winter. This is one of the earliest known incidents which involved a swarm of large black flies gathering on a screened-in porch clinging to the windows, even though the frigid Indiana winter should have made it impossible for so many insects to survive. Rosa and LaToya could not understand how or why the flies continued to appear, even after they were killed or driven out. So this was a small thing, but a very unsettling omen of things to come. As 2012 dawned, life in the house became more disturbing. Latoya and Rosa both claimed that the children, whose names are often kept private due to their ages, began to act in ways they never had before. They complained of being pushed, heard voices in empty rooms, or felt as if they were being watched by unseen eyes. And small items would vanish from bedside tables and reappear in bizarre places. And at times the children would wake up, shrieking in the middle of the night, describing dark silhouettes standing at the foot of their beds. As days passed, the children displayed what the family interpreted as signs of demonic possession. Eyes rolling in their heads, deep and guttural voices emanating from them, and chilling laughter that seemed far too mature for their age. So Latoya, frightened and unsure what else to do, began to pray over them and read Bible verses aloud in an effort to cleanse the house. She also reportedly reached out to local churches seeking advice and spiritual help. Alarmed by her children's deteriorating mental and emotional states, Latoya took them to doctors and psychologists, and medical professionals observed the children's behavior but had no conclusive explanation. Some believed that there could be an underlying psychological issue, while others, according to family accounts, were so rattled they admitted never having seen anything quite like it. During family gatherings, relatives noticed that the children, especially the two younger ones, often appeared dazed or aggressive. On one occasion, when a family friend came over to help, she claimed the youngest child was found crawling, his eyes rolling upward into their sockets. The friend left abruptly, calling Latoya afterward to tell her that something was profoundly wrong in that house. Worried about the children's health and the bizarre escalating events in the home, healthcare staff at a local medical facility eventually contacted Child Protective Services. The children had been taken to the hospital on multiple occasions for strange symptoms, such as fainting, incoherent speech, or violent outbursts. So, let's talk about the infamous wall climbing incident, okay? A social worker and medical personnel reported an incident so startling it made its way into official Department of Child Services documents and hospital paperwork. One of Latoya's sons, while in the presence of a nurse and CPS case manager, allegedly walked backward up a wall, flipped over his grandmother, and landed on his feet, still wearing an eerie, unblinking expression. The staff, terrified, documented the event in official reports, stating there was no logical explanation for how a child could physically do such a thing. But skeptics, including other medical professionals and law enforcement, questioned the veracity of the claim. But the official DCS report described the incident in writing, naming two medical staffs who said they witnessed it firsthand. The caseworker was so disturbed that she called her supervisor, refusing to return to work on the case unless she was accompanied by someone else at all times. Multiple social workers and child welfare officials made visits to the Carolina Street house. They documented bizarre occurrences hauntings, strange voices and recorders, inexplicable malfunctions of electronic devices, and certain cold spots. At times, the children would hiss or growl at them, only to revert to normal behavior minutes later. Rosa and Latoya insisted there was a demonic influence in the home, but the officials were torn between believing their family's story and suspecting child abuse or a psychological explanation. Soon the Gary Police Department was involved, both to ensure the children's safety and to investigate the possibility of illegal activity or deception. Some officers, according to police captain Charles Austin, who's retired, initially dismissed the case as a hoax, but curiosity drove him to set foot in the house himself. During a visit to the basement with other officers, Austin reportedly encountered a series of strange events. Battery-operated recording devices failing without explanation, an unknown liquid dripping from nowhere, and an odd sense of dread that made the hairs on his arms stand on end. He later told reporters that he walked away from the house believing that something paranormal was going on, though he admitted it was outside the typical scope of law enforcement. Some officers took photos inside the home that showed blurry silhouettes or orbs. Others claimed audio recorders picked up disembodied voices or faint growls. No police official ever definitively stated this is a demon, but many admitted that events in that house defied simple explanations. A local priest, Father Michael Maginot, received a call from a hospital chaplain and then from church authorities to assess the situation. Trained in theology but with limited direct experience in demonic cases, Father Maginot nonetheless took the family's concerns seriously. After speaking extensively with Latoya and Rosa, he visited the house to conduct a preliminary evaluation. Father Maginot initially performed a simple blessing of the house, sprinkling holy water, reciting prayers, and asking any negative entities to leave. According to the family, the malevolence momentarily subsided but soon returned with a vengeance. Latoya's children still showed signs of apparent possession, such as dark stares, threatening voices, and a remarkable strength during outbursts. Convinced that a more direct spiritual intervention was needed, Father Maginot sought permission from his diocese to perform an exorcism on Latoya herself. He performed 3 exorcisms on Latoya, 2 in English and 1 in Latin, at his church in Merrillville, Indiana. In each session, Latoya convulsed and collapsed, claiming to feel something leaving her body. After the final exorcism, Father Maginot announced that Latoya appeared free from whatever had tormented her. Due to concerns about the children's well-being, Child Protective Services temporarily placed them in foster care, insisting that Latoya resolve what they deemed an unsafe environment, whether the threat was supernatural or otherwise. While the children away the violent episodes lessened. Nevertheless, Latoya and Rosa still claimed they heard footsteps at night and saw shadows move in the corners of their vision. For months, Latoya and her mother continued to appeal to spiritual leaders, social workers, and even city officials. They combined the stress of losing custody of their children and living in the home took a heavy emotional toll on Latoya. Eventually, following the exorcisms and repeated attempts to rid the house of its dark presence, the children were returned to her, but under the strict watch of Child Protective Services. Soon afterward, the family made a firm decision that they would leave the house on Carolina Street for good. By late 2012, Latoya and her children had completely moved out. Rosa refused ever to stay in the Gary house again. The family found a new residence, hoping to start fresh. Reports indicate that once they left, the bizarre behaviors and terrifying episodes ceased, reinforcing their belief that the house itself was the source of the alleged demonic activity. Many of the events described were documented in official DCS reports, psychiatric evaluations, and hospital notes. This lends an unusual level of authenticity to the claims, at least insofar as multiple professionals witnessed something out of the ordinary. Yet none of the documents label it explicitly as demonic activity. Instead, they describe phenomena without a clear medical or psychological explanation. After the Indianapolis Star ran a detailed article in 2014, the story went viral. Media outlets around the world highlighted everything from the children's alleged levitation to testimonies from the Catholic priest. Despite the official logs and multiple witnesses, skeptics proposed rational explanations. Some suggested it was a case of mass hysteria, strong emotional distress, or a carefully orchestrated hoax by the family. Others theorized that toxic mold or other environmental factors might have caused hallucinations and physical ailments. But these theories often clashed with the first-hand accounts of the social worker, the medical staff, and the police who claimed to see the children do impossible things. Renowned paranormal investigator Zach Bagans, known for the TV show Ghost Adventures, was so intrigued by the Ammons case that he purchased the house in 2014. His intention was to film a documentary, eventually titled Demon House, that would explore the haunting and attempt to capture evidence of supernatural phenomena. Bagans and his crew moved to the Gary house to conduct a thorough investigation. According to interviews and the documentary itself, crew members claimed to experience odd visions, nightmares, and unexplainable illnesses. Equipment malfunctioned unexpectedly and audio recordings picked up unusual voices. Witnesses interviewed on camera reiterated the horrifying events they had seen, including the famed wall walking incident. In a controversial move, Zach Bagans chose to have the house demolished in 2016. He offered different reasons for this choice. Some said it was for safety, others claimed it was out of fear that the structure contained a tangible evil. With the demolition, any future in-person investigations of the property ended. All that remains now is an empty lot, a swirl of rumors, and a string of official documents hinting at an incredible story. Latoya, Ammons, and her children moved on, leaving their lives far from the house that brought them worldwide notoriety. According to interviews given after the final exorcisms, the terrifying episodes subsided and the children resumed relatively normal lives. While the family has largely stayed out of the public eye, they have reaffirmed that they believe in the reality of what they had experienced. The end. What did you guys think of this story? I watched the Netflix movie that was based on this event. I think it's called The Deliverance, if I'm not wrong, but I was left very disappointed. It could have been better, to be honest. So yeah, let me know, what did you think? What you liked or what you didn't like about the story of today's video. If you have suggestions for future videos, do comment them down below and I will be happy to do a video based on your suggestions, okay?